I found my husband extracting a kidney from a paralyzed patient who was still conscious. A man in a suit handed Marcus $200,000 in cash. Then I found my name on the list of the next victims. I'm Dr. Rachel Webb, anesthesiologist at Chicago General Hospital. Married to Dr. Marcus Webb, head of transplant surgery. I thought we saved lives together. Turns out, he was murdering patients and selling their organs while I put them to sleep. The first crack in my perfect world appeared exactly 3 weeks and 2 days ago. I remember because it was the day after our wedding anniversary and Marcus had been unusually generous with gifts. A diamond bracelet that cost more than my car. "You deserve the best," he'd said, kissing my forehead. That morning, Jake Morrison came through our doors. 22 years old, University of Chicago linebacker, built like a Greek statue. He was supposed to have a routine hernia repair, 30 minutes, tops. The kind of surgery Marcus could do in his sleep. I administered the anesthesia while chatting with Jake about his upcoming NFL draft prospects. Kid had everything going for him. Full scholarship, perfect health, girlfriend waiting to marry him after graduation. I watched him drift off to sleep, trusting us completely. Marcus performed what should have been textbook surgery. I monitored Jake's vitals throughout the procedure. Heart rate steady, blood pressure perfect, oxygen saturation at 100%. Everything went exactly as planned. Until it didn't. 12 hours post-op, Jake's heart simply stopped. No warning, no explanation. Just a flatline on the monitor and a young man's dreams dying with him. Sometimes athletes have undiagnosed cardiac conditions, Marcus explained to Jake's devastated parents. We did everything we could. But I had personally reviewed Jake's preoperative cardiac workup. EKG normal. Echocardiogram perfect. Stress test results that would make a cardiologist weep with joy. That kid's heart was built to play professional football for 20 years. Hearts like that don't just stop. I asked Marcus about it privately that night over dinner. Don't you think it's strange? Jake's cardiac death. Marcus didn't look up for mistake. Tragic, yes. Strange, no. You know as well as I do that healthy young people can have hidden defects. But his workup was perfect. Workups can miss things. His tone suggested the conversation was over. 2 weeks later, Sarah Chin arrived in our ER. 19 years old, nursing student at Northwestern, sweet kid with her whole life mapped out. Classic appendicitis case, textbook presentation, straightforward diagnosis. I had administered anesthesia to Sarah for her appendectomy when she grabbed my hand just before going under. Promise me I'll wake up, she whispered. I'm getting married next month. You'll be fine, I assured her. Dr. Webb is the best surgeon in Chicago. Another routine surgery. Another perfect procedure. Another inexplicable death. Sarah died 18 hours later from what Marcus called overwhelming sepsis. But I had seen her white blood cell count post-surgery. Normal. Her temperature was normal. Her wound looked pristine. Sepsis doesn't develop that fast in healthy teenagers. At Sarah's funeral, her fiancé collapsed on her casket, sobbing that he couldn't live without her. Her parents looked like they'd aged 20 years in 24 hours. I started having nightmares. Then came Alex Rodriguez 3 days ago. 25 years old, motorcycle accident victim who'd been thrown from his bike on Lakeshore Drive. Broken ribs, some internal bleeding, but his organs were intact. The paramedics said he'd been conscious and talking during transport. Just fix me up, doc, he joked as we wheeled him into surgery. I've got a date Saturday night. Marcus operated to repair the internal bleeding while I monitored Alex's anesthesia. Standard trauma surgery. Nothing complicated. Alex survived. Unlike Jake and Sarah, he woke up in recovery. But something was wrong. I feel weird, Alex whispered to me when I checked on him the next morning. Like something's missing inside me. I examined his surgical site. Everything looked normal according to his chart. But Alex kept complaining about severe pain in his lower back, right where his left kidney should be. You're imagining things, Marcus said when I mentioned Alex's concerns. Post-surgical paranoia is extremely common after trauma. Give him more pain medication. But Alex wasn't paranoid. He was a construction worker, tough as nails, used to physical pain. This was different. Doc, I swear something's been taken out of me, he insisted. I can feel it. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I went back to check on Alex. His room was empty. Bed made. No sign he'd ever been there. I rushed to the nurse's station. Where's Alex Rodriguez? Discharged AMA, the night nurse said, checking her computer. Left around midnight. Against medical advice? Alex had been scheduled for at least 3 more days of observation. I called the emergency contact number on his chart. His sister Maria hadn't heard from him since the accident. Alex would never leave the hospital without calling me, she said, her voice tight with worry. Something's wrong. That's when I made the decision that probably saved my life. I started investigating. I spent the next 2 days pulling medical records from every patient Marcus had operated on in the past 18 months. What I found made my hands shake as I printed each file. 37 young patients between ages 18 and 35. All came in for routine procedures, minor surgeries, or trauma cases. All healthy. All with perfect organs. 18 died from complications that made no medical sense. 19 others, like Alex, had been discharged AMA and subsequently vanished. No forwarding addresses. No contact with families. Just gone. But the smoking gun was hidden in Marcus's personal computer. I found it tonight while he was performing another emergency surgery on a 20-year-old college student named Emma Walsh. Car accident victim, internal bleeding, perfect candidate for organ harvest. Marcus had left his computer unlocked in his office, probably rushing to get to Emma before her organs deteriorated. I clicked on a password-protected folder labeled Investment Portfolio. Inside were spreadsheets that made my blood turn to ice. Names, ages, blood types, complete medical histories, organ compatibility ratings. Market prices listed next to each organ. Kidney pair, for $100,000. Liver, $600,000. Heart, $800,000. Corneas, $100,000 per pair. Bone marrow, $200,000. The buyers were listed too. Sheikh Al Rahman in Dubai. A pharmaceutical executive in Switzerland. A casino owner in Macau. Rich people buying life from poor people who had no choice in the transaction. Over the past 2 years, Marcus had systematically harvested organs from 63 patients. Young, healthy people who trusted him with their lives. Total revenue, $31.7 million. But the entry that made me vomit right there in his office was at the bottom of the most recent file. Rachel Webb, 33, type AB negative universal recipient. Rare blood type, premium pricing available. Heart, liver, kidneys, corneas, bone marrow. Estimated value, $2.1 million. Buyer confirmed, Prince Abdullah, Saudi Arabia. Target date, October 15th. Method, annual physical examination with induced cardiac arrest. Official cause of death, undiagnosed heart condition. Tomorrow was October 15th. My annual physical examination. With my husband. The man I'd trusted with my life for 5 years. I ran to his private bathroom and threw up until nothing came but bile and terror. The appointment confirmation was already in my email inbox, sent 3 hours ago. Looking forward to tomorrow's examination, my love. Dr. Kim will be assisting as always. We'll take exceptional care of you. All my love, Marcus. Dr. Kim, the young cardiac surgeon who assisted on all of Marcus's special cases. The one who never asked questions about the high mortality rate. The one who'd bought a new Mercedes last month on a resident's salary. I was trapped in a nightmare with no way out. My phone buzzed with another message from Marcus, stopping by the house to grab some equipment. Made your favorite pasta for dinner. Can't wait to spend our last evening together. Love you forever. Our last evening together. He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. I had maybe 2 hours before he came home expecting his loving, trusting wife to be waiting with dinner and wine. 2 hours to figure out how to stay alive. I printed every document from his computer, uploaded everything to 3 different cloud storage accounts, and copied the files onto flash drives that I hid in places Marcus would never think to look. Then I did something that terrified me more than dying. I called the FBI. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Agent Johnson speaking. I need to report a doctor who's been murdering patients and selling their organs. Silence. Then, ma'am, can you repeat that? My husband is Dr. Marcus Webb at Chicago General Hospital. He's killed at least 63 people and sold their organs for over $30 million. And he's planning to kill me tomorrow. 25 minutes later, I met Agent Johnson in the abandoned parking lot of a closed shopping mall. He was younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of tired eyes that had seen humanity's worst impulses. "Dr. Webb, we've been investigating your husband for 11 months. My heart stopped. 11 months? Why didn't you arrest him? Because every time we got close, witnesses died in accidents or disappeared completely. We know Marcus is running an organ trafficking operation, but proving it in federal court requires ironclad evidence. I have spreadsheets, fire lists, financial records. We need more than documents. We need him confessing on tape, caught in the act, with witnesses who can testify without fear of retaliation. He's planning to murder me tomorrow during my physical exam." Agent Johnson's expression hardened. "We know. We intercepted communications between Marcus and Prince Abdullah's representatives. $2.1 million wired to a Cayman Islands account yesterday. Then arrest him." "For what? Receiving money isn't illegal. We can't prove it's payment for organs without catching him in the act." I felt like I was drowning. "So you want me to let him kill me? We want you to wear a recording device tomorrow and get him to confess. We'll have agents positioned throughout the hospital. The moment he admits to organ trafficking or attempts to harm you, we move. What if you're too late?" Agent Johnson looked me straight in the eyes. "Then we'll have your murder on tape to convict him with." Not exactly the reassurance I was hoping for. "There's something else," he continued. "We've identified a network of at least 12 hospitals across 8 states running similar operations. Marcus isn't just a rogue surgeon. He's part of an international organ trafficking cartel worth over $200 million annually." The scope of it hit me like a physical blow. Hundreds of victims. Thousands of families destroyed. All for money. "Dr. Webb, we need your help to bring down the entire network. You're our only inside source." I thought about Jake Morrison, about Sarah Chin, about Alex Rodriguez who'd vanished into thin air. About Emma Walsh, who was probably dying on Marcus's operating table right now while we talked. "What do you need me to do?" Agent Johnson handed me a small device no bigger than a button. "This goes under your bra tomorrow. Audio and video recording, GPS tracking, panic button. The moment you press it, we storm the hospital. What if Marcus finds it? Then we'll know because your heart will stop beating and we'll have 30 seconds to reach you before brain death occurs." That night was the longest of my life. Marcus came home at 11:30 p.m., whistling cheerfully, carrying a bottle of champagne and a bouquet of white roses. "To celebrate our time together," he said, kissing my forehead with lips that had probably just finished cutting up Emma Walsh. I forced myself to smile. "Just a routine physical tomorrow. Nothing routine about you, darling." His eyes had a strange gleam that made my skin crawl. "You're genuinely special. 1 in 10 million. He was talking about my blood type, about my value as a commodity. "Marcus, can I ask you something that's been bothering me?" "Of course. Anything." "What really happened to Alex Rodriguez?" "He just disappeared after surgery." Marcus poured himself wine, his movements casual and relaxed. "Patients leave when they want to leave, Rachel. We're doctors, not prison guards. But he was supposed to stay for observation. And his sister hasn't heard from him. Alex Rodriguez made his own choices." Marcus's voice carried a subtle warning. "Just like you'll make yours tomorrow." "What do you mean?" "I mean you trust me, don't you? After 5 years of marriage, after everything we've built together." "Of course I trust you." "Good. Trust is everything in marriage. Without trust, relationships die." The irony was beyond sick. We went to bed at midnight. I lay awake listening to Marcus breathe beside me, this man who'd murdered dozens of people while I slept next to him every night. At 3 a.m., I felt him watching me in the darkness. "Rachel? Are you awake?" I kept my breathing steady. "Ma'am. I love you more than anything in this world. I love you too. Tomorrow is going to change everything for us." "Change how?" "You'll see. Just remember that everything I do because I love you." Even in the dark, I could hear him smiling. The next morning, October 15th, I arrived at Chicago General Hospital at 7 a.m. with a recording device taped under my bra and a GPS tracker sewn into my shoe. Agent Johnson's voice crackled through my nearly invisible earpiece. "We have 24 agents positioned throughout the hospital. Dr. Kim is under surveillance. The moment Marcus makes his move, we're ready. What if he doesn't confess? He will. Narcissists like Marcus can't resist explaining how clever they are. I found Marcus in OR 7, humming while he arranged surgical instruments on a tray. Instruments that weren't needed for a routine physical examination. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, kissing my cheek. "Ready for your checkup?" "Ready as I'll ever be." Dr. Kim entered the room, her face pale and nervous. She'd been Marcus's accomplice in at least 20 murders, but seeing her now, I realized she was as trapped as his victims. "Dr. Webb," she said quietly. "Are you sure about this procedure?" "Dr. Kim," Marcus replied sharply. "Please prepare the anesthesia as discussed." I lay on the operating table, my heart pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it. Marcus smiled down at me with the same loving expression he'd worn on our wedding day. "This might sting a little," he said, inserting an 4 into my arm. But instead of anesthesia, I felt a strange heaviness in my limbs while my mind remained completely alert. Paralytic drugs. I could hear and see everything but couldn't move or speak. The perfect victim. "Excellent," Marcus said, checking my pupils. "Dr. Kim, please prepare the organ transport containers. Prince Abdullah's private jet lands at O'Hare in 6 hours. Dr. Webb," Dr. Kim's voice shook. "She's your wife. She's also worth $2.1 million. And unfortunately, she's been asking too many questions about our patients." Terror flooded through me, but I couldn't even blink. "What about Jake Morrison?" Dr. Kim asked. "His parents are still asking questions." Marcus laughed while selecting a scalpel. "Jake Morrison had a perfect heart. Sold it to an oil executive in Texas for $800,000. The parents can ask all the questions they want. Their son's heart is keeping a millionaire alive." And Saracen. Liver and kidneys went to that pharmaceutical heiress in Switzerland. 1.2 million total. Sarah's sacrifice gave a rich woman 20 more years of life. Alex Rodriguez. Alex figured out what we'd done. Kept insisting something was missing. So we made sure he went missing too. His organs are scattered across 3 continents by now. The confession was being recorded. Every word. "How many others?" Dr. Kim whispered. 63 confirmed kills over 2 years. 31.7 million in revenue. Not bad for a surgeon's side business. Through my paralyzed state, I heard commotion in the hallway. Shouting voices. Running footsteps. "Dr. Marcus Webb. FBI. You're under arrest." The doors exploded inward. Federal agents flooded the operating room. But Marcus was ready. He had a scalpel pressed against my carotid artery. "Stay back," he screamed. "One step closer, and I open her throat right now." "It's over, Marcus," Agent Johnson said, his weapon drawn. "We have everything. The bank records, the buyer contacts, the murder confessions. Release your wife and surrender." "You think this ends with me?" Marcus laughed maniacally. "I'm just one surgeon in a network of hundreds. 12 hospitals, 47 doctors, over 300 murders annually. You've caught one fish in an ocean of predators. Then help us catch the others. Release Rachel and we'll discuss a plea deal." The scalpel pressed harder against my neck. I felt warm blood trickling down to my shoulder. "Rachel enabled me for 5 years," Marcus snarled. "She put every one of my victims to sleep. She's as guilty as I am." "I was recording everything," Dr. Kim suddenly said. "For the past year, I've been recording our conversations because I was scared. I have evidence of the entire network." Marcus spun toward her. "You betrayed me? You betrayed everyone. Those people trusted us to heal them." In that moment of distraction, I felt sensation returning to my hand. The paralytic was wearing off. I grabbed Marcus's wrist and screamed, "Now." Agent Johnson tackled Marcus. The scalpel clattered across the floor. "Dr. Marcus Webb, you're under arrest for 63 counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, organ trafficking, and racketeering." But Marcus was still laughing as they handcuffed him. "You have no idea how deep this goes," he said. "The buyers, the politicians who protect us, the medical boards who look the other way. Arresting me won't save anyone." "We'll see about that," Agent Johnson replied grimly. The investigation that followed revealed the true scope of Marcus's operation and nearly destroyed my faith in humanity. He had been the Midwest hub of an international organ trafficking cartel called the Hippocratic Network. The name was their sick joke, violating the Hippocratic Oath on an industrial scale. 12 hospitals across 8 states. 47 surgeons, 62 nurses, 31 administrators. Over 800 murders disguised as surgical complications or medical accidents. The network had generated over $200 million in revenue over 5 years. The victims were specifically targeted: young, healthy people who came to hospitals alone, without advocates, who wouldn't be immediately missed. College students far from home. Homeless individuals. Undocumented immigrants. People society had already forgotten. Marcus had kept detailed videos of every surgery he performed. Not for medical records, but as trophies and proof of delivery for buyers. The FBI found terabytes of footage showing him harvesting organs from conscious, paralyzed victims. In one video, Jake Morrison tried to scream through his paralysis as Marcus removed his heart while it was still beating. The kid's eyes were wide with terror and betrayal. Sarah Chen's video showed her crying silent tears as Marcus systematically harvested her liver, kidneys, and corneas while explaining to Dr. Kim how much each organ would sell for. Alex Rodriguez's final video showed him trying to fight back as the paralytic wore off, but Marcus simply injected more drugs and continued cutting. These weren't mercy killings or quick deaths. These were torture murders committed by medical professionals who had perverted their oath to heal into a license to kill. I had to testify about those videos in federal court. Describing what I saw, what Marcus had done to those innocent people, remains the most difficult thing I've ever been asked to do. But it ensured his conviction on 63 counts of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The judge sentenced him to death, but Marcus will likely spend the rest of his life in solitary confinement while his appeals wind through the courts. Dr. Kim received 25 years for conspiracy and accessory to murder. She testified against the other network members in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. The hospital administrator who falsified records and accepted bribes got 18 years. 46 other doctors across the network received sentences ranging from life imprisonment to 15 years. But the hardest part of this entire nightmare wasn't Marcus's conviction or the collapse of the trafficking network. It was facing the families of his victims. Jake Morrison's parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit that bankrupted Chicago General Hospital. At the trial, his mother looked directly at me and said, "You worked alongside him for 5 years. How could you not know what he was doing?" The question haunts me every day. How many warning signs had I missed? How many red flags had I ignored because I loved and trusted my husband? Sarah Chen's father was more forgiving but no less painful to face. "Thank you for finally speaking up," he said after the sentencing. "But I need you to understand that your silence cost us our daughter." Alex Rodriguez's sister Maria found me outside the courthouse after Marcus's conviction. "Alex called me the night before he disappeared," she said. "He told me something felt wrong at the hospital, that people were asking strange questions about his medical history and family contacts. I should have told him to leave immediately." The medical board cleared me of professional wrongdoing after a 6-month investigation. They determined that I had no knowledge of Marcus's crimes and had acted appropriately once I discovered the truth. But I couldn't clear myself. How could I continue practicing anesthesiology, knowing that I had unknowingly participated in dozens of murders? How could I put patients to sleep when I knew how vulnerable unconscious people truly are? I resigned from Chicago General and joined the FBI's healthcare fraud unit. It doesn't bring back Marcus's victims, but maybe it prevents future ones. Working with federal investigators, we've dismantled 17 similar networks across the country. Over 200 medical professionals arrested. 15 hospitals investigated and shut down. 437 victims identified, and their families notified. But the work isn't finished. Organ trafficking is a billion-dollar industry that preys on society's most vulnerable people. For every network we destroy, 2 more spring up to take its place. The most shocking discovery during our investigations was how many people in positions of authority knew what was happening and chose to look the other way. Hospital administrators who ignored suspicious mortality rates because the surgeons generated revenue. Medical board members who buried complaints because the doctors made large political donations. insurance companies that paid death benefits without investigating obvious patterns of fraud, government officials who took bribes to prevent federal investigations. The corruption ran so deep that we're still uncovering new cases 3 years later. But there have been victories too. Dr. Kim's recordings helped us identify and arrest the buyers, wealthy individuals who paid millions for organs harvested from murdered victims. Prince Abdullah was arrested in Switzerland and extradited to face charges. The oil executive who bought Jake Morrison's heart was sentenced to life in prison. The pharmaceutical heiress who received Sarah Chen's organs died from complications before she could be prosecuted, but her estate was seized and used to compensate victims' families. Most importantly, we've implemented new oversight systems to prevent future networks from operating undetected. Mandatory reporting of unusual mortality rates. Independent review of all organ transplant procedures. Financial audits of surgeons who show unexplained wealth. Anonymous tip lines for healthcare workers to report suspicious activity. It's not perfect, but it's better than the system that allowed Marcus to murder 63 people. Last month, I testified before Congress about medical serial killers and organ trafficking. A senator asked me what signs ordinary people should watch for when receiving medical care. Trust your instincts, I said. If a doctor seems more interested in your organ health than your presenting symptoms, ask questions. If you're scheduled for surgery and the doctor asks unusual questions about your family contacts or emergency contacts, be suspicious. If your surgeon seems to be rushing you into an operation, get a second opinion. But what if patients are wrong? The senator asked. What if they're paranoid? Being wrong means potential embarrassment. Being right and staying silent means people die. Because here's what I learned the hard way: evil doesn't announce itself with horns and pitchforks. Evil looks like someone you trust, someone you love, someone wearing scrubs and a white coat who promises to heal you. Sometimes the person saving your life is the person planning to end it. The man I married murdered 63 young, healthy people and sold their organs to wealthy buyers around the world. He would have murdered me too if I hadn't found the courage to investigate and fight back. But the woman who slept next to a serial killer for 5 years, who enabled his crimes through willful blindness, who chose love over logic until it was almost too late, she has to live with that knowledge forever. And maybe that's the harshest sentence of all. If you work in healthcare, document everything that seems wrong. Report suspicious activity immediately. Don't wait for absolute proof. Don't let loyalty or fear keep you silent. If you're a patient, ask questions about your treatment. Know your medical history. Make sure someone knows where you are and when you're expected to return. Because medical serial killers are real. They're more common than most people realize. And they depend on our trust, our silence, and our willingness to look the other way. The next time you're under anesthesia, the next time you place your life in a doctor's hands, remember this story. Remember that not everyone who takes the Hippocratic Oath honors it. Some people become doctors to save lives. Others become doctors because it's the perfect cover for taking them. Make sure you know the difference before you close your eyes and trust someone with your life. Because once you're unconscious, you're completely at their mercy. And mercy isn't guaranteed. The Hippocratic network is gone, but the demand for organs continues. Somewhere tonight, another surgeon is looking at a patient and seeing dollar signs instead of a human being. Don't let it be you.